Hey guys, so I have something interesting to tell you. I've made another move and this time it's to New York. Actually, New York has not really been on my mind. So unlike Spain, when I decided to move to Spain, I actually did a video of this literally 4 years ago. Wow, it's been 4 years. That is so crazy. Honestly, time goes by so fast. So anyway, if you want to see my video about Spain, right over there, check it out. But this time it's to New York, and like I mentioned earlier on, New York was never a city I considered moving. When I came back from Spain after like my 2 year break of thinking of what I wanted to do, I was trying to decide like what city I should move to in the US. My family right now lives in New Orleans, and I of course had to go there first to settle down and kind of gather my thoughts. And then last year I decided to like visit some cities that I could consider living, and I went to New York last year, and I was like, New York is definitely not for me. It's too crowded, too many people. I'm still a country mouse, I realized quickly. And then I went to San Francisco, and although I love San Francisco and I love the weather, I just could not see myself living there. And so yeah, I started considering New York, and I was like, okay, might as well start applying for jobs. So I saved some money, paid off my debts, so happy about that. I would say like summer of last year, I knew that New York was going to be the city I'll move to. So I was just kind of researching, seeing like what I'll need to survive in New York. I'm that person, I have to organize everything I do. And so I created an Excel sheet of like how much it costs to live in certain boroughs in New York, how easy it is to find certain jobs. A week or two before, I like literally started applying for jobs in like SEO, digital marketing, PPC and all of that. The company was interested and they were contacting me. I did the first interview, did the second interview, and okay, so something that's funny, I put my address to New York because my sister lives there, and like I noticed that like, you know, a lot of companies, they wouldn't like pay attention to you if you put your address, like for example, if you're living in Ohio and you're like, applying from Ohio, I just feel like they don't put much of an effort into looking at your resume. So I put like I lived in New York. So like the whole time they thought that I lived in New York, and so I guess that was another contributing factor to them responding to me quickly. So when the second interview, they were like, do you want to have a face-to-face meeting? I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to fly to New York. So the first time I was like, oh, okay, I'm maybe not this week, but the other week I'll be there, having a family appointment or whatever. The second interview, we did a phone interview, and so that went well. I was like, okay, this is promising. I had not told my parents yet about this, so I was kind of like, I don't think I'm gonna get a job like right from Louisiana. So on the third interview, they wanted me to go. So I told my parents, hey, I've been looking into New York and applied for this job, and they want to do an interview to want to see me. Basically, the impression they gave me was like, we want you to meet the team. So in my mind, I was kind of like, okay, I feel like I'm getting close to the finish line and they're interested in maybe hiring me because she said, we want you to meet the team. So I went there. It was on Wall Street, this company. They do financial news and stuff, but it was going to be in digital marketing. So I was like nervous. When I did an interview, I just didn't feel like the interview went well, and like it's something I notice about myself. Whenever like I get a vibe that it's not gonna work out well, usually it doesn't. So I did an interview, and like I just thanked them after the interview. So my parents were like, they called me and they're like, okay Karima, how was the interview? I was like, I don't know yet until like next week. So basically, alhamdulillah, thank God, like I had a place to stay that I didn't have to pay initially, because you know I have my sister here. I heard back from them, and they said I did not get the position. They were going to move forward with other candidates. I was like seriously crushed because I didn't have a lot of savings, just kind of like Spain. I saved just enough for like a month or two, and I was like, oh my gosh, what am I gonna do? And it doesn't make sense to go back to Louisiana, so I'm just gonna stay in New York until I find a job. I don't care whatever job it is. So I stayed in New York and I was applying to jobs like crazy. Oh my gosh, like it was like one of the most scary moments in my life. It was also my birthday month. On my birthday I was so sad because I was like, I feel like a failure. I know it's so dramatic, but like I was just kind of like, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. I had such high hopes for this job, and like I was rejected. I had two dilemmas actually. I had to look for an apartment, and I also had to look for a job, and every month was like money being lost. Like, you imagine like going to a new city, you don't know what the future is going to be, and you have to look for an apartment, you have to look for, you know, look for a job. Is the scariest thing ever. And sometimes I think to myself, like when I'm moving to a new city, should I look for an apartment first or a job? And like my default usually is look for an apartment, because no matter what, you like, you know, it's really nice to know that you have like a place to sleep even if you're stressed. But if you're looking for a job first and you don't have a place, I feel like you're just super stressed. What I did was like this day I start a job, I'm applying for jobs, and the next day I'll start applying for like looking for apartments. It was like the craziest time. So like, you know, a lot of people come to like the big cities and like have this expectation, like I'm gonna get this like this high level career, and then you come back and you realize that New York is hella competitive and you have to prove why you're good. And even if you're good, you have to show why and how. So I had to be creative. Like, so there was a point when I was job searching and I was getting really frustrated. I was like, you know what, I should just start like with a retail job, so that I can like get my foot in the system and like at least have some income coming in. One thing a lot of people don't tell you about New York, like just because you're living in the city doesn't mean that you're living the life. Like some people are really hustling. They have 3, 4, 5 jobs just to get by until they reach their goal. So that's one of the things about living in a city. One of the good things though is that I was getting interviews, so that was like a good sign. People were interested to know what I had to offer. Shout out to 9 to 5 chick. I met her through Instagram. She was awesome. Like she helped me with my resume. So like finally I got an interview with a company and I got good vibes from them. Like from the moment I just could feel like positive vibes, and when I came out of the interview I just kind of felt happy. And then literally the next day they told me that they were interested in going further with me, and so I was like so happy. There are many apps, like, you know, many websites that you can look for apartments in New York. There's a Roomy app, there's like Craigslist. I'm not a big fan of Craigslist, but it's basically a diamond in a rough kind of website. Facebook is a good way to find a place to stay, or like, you know, look for a roommate. But I was very comfortable with this website called Roomy, and it's a website where you can find like places for subletting and stuff and finding roommates. And I like it because the interface is very friendly, user friendly, and it's like verified, so you know that they're not going to be creepy people. So like apartment hunting in New York is definitely a challenge, especially when you come from the South or like the Midwest. I grew up in Toledo, Ohio. We're used to like big spaces, and I had to readjust my thought process. Like average studio apartments or like an apartment that you're even sharing in New York could cost between like $800 to like $2,000. And whenever I see like an apartment is $2,000, I'm just thinking to myself, like, you could buy a whole house in the South for $2,000 a month. Like seriously, and you have a pool and a backyard. Mind-blowing. But here in New York, with $2,000 you're just starting. You're literally living in a shoebox. It's seriously real and sad sometimes, like, oh my gosh. So that was definitely something I had to like teach myself, or like compromise in my mind that, girl, you're not gonna get everything you want. So definitely when it comes to apartment hunting in New York, you have to compromise a lot of things. you have to either sacrifice space, you have to sacrifice electricity, you have to sacrifice sometimes even having an oven. Like seriously, that's just New York. So lower your expectations as well when it comes to New York, because if you want to have everything in New York, just get ready to pay a luxurious amount for that. I'll say honestly, like, apartment hunting was definitely the most challenging for me in New York than even finding a job. I just went through a lot of things and it was definitely a learning process, and I finally found an apartment in my favorite neighborhood, which is Queens, Astoria, and that was a neighborhood I first lived in when I came to New York last year, and I was really glad to find something, because like there's just something about Astoria that I love. Like whenever I walk into Astoria, just seeing the people, the serenity, the diverse restaurants, and like, I don't know, Astoria is just so beautiful. Like Queens, Astoria is like, for me, the best neighborhood in New York. I started like, you know, searching for furniture for my apartment. I just feel like a grown-up adult for the first time. I know it's crazy I'm saying that, because like, you know, you're like, oh my gosh, just moved to like New York when you move to like another country. But New York is so different, though it's like my country. I'm just moving to another state, but it's just so different from anywhere I've ever lived in. With Spain, like they already had like furniture. But in New York, I mean, many cases like it's not furnished, so you have to like search for your own, like get your own furniture. So I shopped with my sister. We went to IKEA and just like bought a lot of things, took them back to the apartment I was living in. It's like it was almost like a Lego thing where you have to like fix everything that you got from the box package, and wow, it was definitely a happy moment. Like, wow, I did this like all by myself with, you know, support of my family, of course, emotional support, and my sister helping me out was definitely a great help. And yeah, just like, wow, Karima, you're adulting for real. And after I was done with everything, I just had to like rejoice, because it was just like so exciting. I was like, wow, we're in the big city and this is crazy. So yeah. I urge you to explore all other boroughs like, you know, Queens, Brooklyn, those two areas at least to start off with, because in Queens, for example, you can find like, you know, similar prices or even less for wider, bigger spaces. Brooklyn is the same, although it's being gentrified a lot, but you can find affordable places in Brooklyn as well. And there are some people that actually live in Jersey, and I think that's like the trend of a lot of people that have lived in New York for quite a while. They just go to Jersey and like save a lot of money, because with the same prices you can get a house or even a very bigger space. So that's just something to think about when moving or thinking of moving to New York. So a lot of people have like these expectations, like when you move to New York, you think like, oh my gosh, everyone is so mean. It's New York, New Yorkers are rude. So far, I haven't gotten rude people. I mean, there are some cases where people like pass by and like hit you by mistake and they never like say sorry. But in general, it's not as hard as some people think it is. You know, there are a lot of like meetups and stuff, and like especially when you're Muslim, you know, the first place to start is the mosque. And I actually came just right before Ramadan, so that's like the best time to meet a lot of people. And I was lucky enough to like, you know, go to an event, and I met this girl who kind of connected me with other people, and like, you know, one person connects you with another person, and I just saw myself like basically hopping from house to house, events to events, just like meeting new people, and it was just like awesome. And so yeah, meeting people in New York does not have to be hard. You just have to find the right group, or you know what your interest is, and then you just start knowing people. The big question is, why on earth did I move to New York? There are many reasons why I moved to New York. I know it's expensive. It definitely changes you, and I hope it changes me for the better. But for me, it was kind of like something I felt like I need to grow in myself in many ways, professionally, socially, and community-wise. I love living in Spain, but I felt like there was just something lacking, which was like basically the Islamic community. New York, the East Coast has a lot of Muslims in New Jersey, in New York area, and other parts of the East Coast. Professional wise, you know, New York is a city with a lot of opportunities, so I wanted to grow my skills as well in digital marketing. And then for Hijabi Globetrotter, of course, which is like one of my biggest motivators for coming here. I love traveling, and from the East Coast you have great flight deals. For example, like I've seen from New York to Madrid is like $400. I'm not even kidding, like I'm serious. $400 from New York to Madrid round trip. So yes, this is one of the biggest reasons why I moved to New York, for the flight prices and basically connecting with people. I feel like whenever people come to the US, you kind of have to come to New York at one point in your life. Another thing, New York is centrally located, so from New York you can go upstate New York, you can go to DC, which is just 4 hours, you can go to Philadelphia, which I don't know how many hours it is, go to New Jersey, you can go to Connecticut, you can go to Boston, like nearly like 7 states you can go to within like a reasonable distance. You can go either by car, you can go by train. And so for me, New York was a strategic location to live in. And one thing about New York that I like is like there are like a lot of like halal friendly or Muslim friendly food restaurants and even places. So New York is so diverse. You see everyone here is like different accents, different backgrounds. No one questions your difference here in New York, and it's something I love and I was craving living in the South. In the South, people always question that you're different. They have an accent in the South. Everyone has an accent in the United States, and New Yorkers have their own accents, which is something I'm learning about, like some things they say. Check out my blog post on that right down below. But yeah, in like I feel like in New York generally, diversity is celebrated. The US is definitely still not a melting pot as some people think, but I think New York is that example of what a melting pot could look like. Alright folks, that's it for me for now. You're gonna see a lot of content around the East Coast showcasing the United States, travel, Muslim friendly places, and of course there will always be international travel, and that's something I look forward to showing you guys. Yeah, so stay tuned. I'm so excited for the future, inshallah. And yeah, of course we're gonna talk about languages. Where I will be enrolling for an Arabic class, so that's the next language that you'll be hearing from me. And of course my beloved Spanish. I'm always gonna post stuff about Spanish and learning Spanish here. And yeah, my advice for people that are thinking of like changing things in their life, like, you know, for me, I feel like sometimes location is a great contributor to your success personally. Sometimes when I feel stuck in life, I try to change my location, and I guess it's just something I've been brought up with. Like my family has always been traveling. I started traveling at the age of 6. As a third culture kid, you always know that, you know, you can start again somewhere else. And so that's kind of my mentality. Like if I feel like I'm stuck somewhere else, maybe it's time to change my environment. And that's kind of how I've been living my life mostly. So New York is where it's home for me for now, and inshallah we'll see where we go from here. And so my advice for anyone that feels stuck personally, professionally, or even relationship wise, I just think that, you know, explore looking at other places. It could be another city, it could be another country, but just move. It is scary, but I advise even my friends that are currently stuck in life and for certain reasons, I just tell them like, I know it's scary, but save money and just move to that place. Because if you just like are in your comfort zone, end up being like sad, especially if you don't like the place, and just like feel resentful. Because like, you know, when I used to live in the Midwest, I wasn't super happy because I wanted to grow, and so I wasn't my best self, and I needed to feel like I'm glowing in life. My life looks, you know, might seem perfect on social media. I want my personal life to also be happy, and that's just something I constantly work on. So yeah, I just say move. I know like the way I moved to New York was crazy for some people, but you know, both of the places I moved, like in across the Atlantic Ocean, in Madrid, Spain, and now New York, I felt like I just had to do it. Like if you just go there, you're gonna find a way to survive. It will be hard at first, but I feel like when survival kicks in, you'll find a way to make it work because you already pushed yourself to do that. So that's my advice for anyone. If you're like scared or worried about doing something, just do it. So that's my tip for you. I hope you enjoyed this video. It's just an intro to what's to come, and yeah, thank you for listening. I'll see you later. Bye. Hasta luego.